On this episode of the Titan Wealth podcast, I talk to Andreas Hollas and Rebecca Ellis about building a world-class international advice proposition. We talk about their day-to-day roles, we talk about leading teams, relocating to Dubai, and we also talk about the Next Gen Leadership Programme, which they have been some of the first participants of. And of course, we finish up by asking them what One Titan means to them. Welcome to the Titan Wealth podcast, guys. So I'm here today with Andreas and Rebecca. Can we start, guys, with a little intro to who you are and what your role is?
Yeah, so I'll start. So Andreas, based in Dubai, been in the industry for 13 years. My role is that of technical advice director. We can talk about what that means in a minute if you like.
Yes, please.
And then I wear two hats as well. So I've got my own personal practice and my own personal clients as well.
Okay.
I'm Rebecca Ellis, Head of Advice at Titan Wealth International. My role has two parts as well, similar to Andreas. I'm supporting the advisors, allowing them to go out and give technical advice to their clients, and also some operational tasks, helping with some of the projects that are going on, more kind of behind the scenes.
So how long have you both been based in Dubai?
So I've been here for 9 years.
I'm 13. Yeah, just coming up 13 years.
And am I right in thinking, Andreas, that you're slightly different in that you've got family out here as well?
Yes, so I met my wife and have had two children out here in those 13 years. I was very young when I came out, to be fair, so it'd be weird if I had them before.
Was your dad out here, though, if I imagined that?
My dad was out here, yeah. So the previous couple I joined their graduate program, had the kind of choice to go to quite a few different places. I chose Dubai because my dad was already here. So I kind of already had a bit of a footprint here, and he's not here anymore because he's moved back to the UK, not for anything more sinister. But yeah, it was quite an easier move for me from that perspective, you would say, yeah.
And how long have you both been with Titan?
So for me, coming up to 2 years. So yeah, 9 years in Dubai and then coming up to 2 years with Titan.
So you joined just as the deal was kind of going through, didn't you?
Before, yeah, probably 2 months before. So we knew it was happening, but it was still a little bit of uncertainty as to when it would actually go through.
So that was quite a blind leap of faith then, really, because you weren't really familiar with what the business was like before. And you obviously at that point hadn't been involved in the conversations then that were leading up to the purchase by Titan. So
yeah, very interesting times. I'd already worked with quite a few people that were at the business that was acquired by Titan. Andreas being one of them. We worked at a previous company together. So I knew people here. So I think that was the kind of familiarity and trust that I needed to kind of join at that time.
Mm-hmm. And how about you, Andreas?
So I joined 5 years ago. Yeah, so formerly AHR and now Titan. And it's been the best thing I've done in my career so far, yeah.
How good is that?
Yeah.
So then let's talk a little bit about drilling down into what your roles actually mean then. So what, when you say, technical director, what does that mean?
So if one of our advisors has a client advisory case, which is a bit more the complicated side, a bit spicy, not your kind of vanilla.
What makes it complicated?
Cross-border.
Okay.
So, meeting I had earlier today, just fresh in my mind. So we've got a South African individual who wants to retire in Portugal, and he spent lots of years in the UK, so he's got lots of UK assets.
Okay.
So there's like 3, and he lives in Dubai. So there's like 4 jurisdictions with regulators and potential tax authorities that we need to consider when we're providing any advice. So that can get quite funky, quite interesting, quite complex.
Okay, so how do you build, because that's almost lots of different pieces of advice working together, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you, do we have all of that expertise within our business, or do you have to go out to third-party providers and consult with them on this as well?
We will regularly consult third-party advisors. So more so kind of tax advisory firms. So they need to kind of rubber stamp advice that we give that's really quite specific to that place.
Yeah.
I will say that we have a lot of expertise internally. Rebecca and I have worked on cases like this for quite a long time. There's no textbook or exam that you can do that covers what we do. Mm-hmm. Because you can do exams and become qualified in different locations, and each country kind of has its own specific quirks and things that you would do. But marrying it all up together, there isn't really anything out there. So a lot of it's kind of led by experience. So we've worked on a lot of cases like this over the years, and then also where we need to rubber stamping, kind of bulletproofing, making sure that the advice is truly correct and works within those different locations. But once you've done that once or twice, and assuming those rules don't change in that country, you've kind of got it then.
Yeah.
So
you're building your own knowledge while you go.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do your roles work together then?
So typically, on paper, historically, we've kind of done the same role, and maybe when I joined, there was going to be a bit more similarities. But I think we've both kind of found the parts that we enjoy doing more. So Andreas spends a lot more time with clients, and so I probably spend more time with the advisors. So Andreas is very rarely sat at his desk. I tend to be at my desk a little bit more. So I get a lot of traffic from the advisors coming through my desk, even some of those support teams, to ask questions, run through cases, try and, I'm there to help the advisors. So I do a bit more of that compared to what Andreas does, because he's usually going out and meeting the clients and spending time with them. And then also I've got more of the operational work, which Andreas doesn't really get involved in. So whether that's, we launched a new process last year for our annual reviews. So kind of launching, designing that process, getting the advisors to follow it, things like that I'm more involved in.
And you've also been quite involved in development of systems, haven't you? And changes of systems as since you've been bought by Titan Group. Obviously, there's a kind of harmonisation and a rollout of systems that they use at group level. So how's that process been for you?
Yeah, it's been really good to see how it's been done in the UK and then try and adapt that to what we do here. So as much as possible, we will follow processes that are used in the UK, but they don't always fit for our clients. And just one example of that is around this CRM that we use. The typical CRMs that financial advisors use in the UK don't have all the currency flexibility that we want to see. So a lot of our clients are connected to the UK and will typically think in pounds. But we have a lot of clients, the one that Andreas just mentioned, South African, they don't want to see a valuation that's denominated in sterling. So those kind of international nuances we've just had to work and be a bit more flexible around to get things that work for our clients.
And then presumably your clients that live and work here are being paid in dollars.
Paid in dirhams.
Okay.
And the dirham is pegged to the dollar.
Yeah, okay.
So dollars is typically clients that are investing here typically will invest in dollars.
Okay. So what does your typical client look like?
Well, that's the thing. There isn't a typical client, but where Rebecca and I would be asked to kind of bang heads together and come up with a proposal or something that made sense for the more complex client. By nature, they're quite different, hence why it's complicated. But there's some common themes for sure. So these are typically wealthy individuals, hence they need advice. There's typically more than one tax authority or regulator involved in that process, and they've all generally got capital that will outlive them. So some common themes there: want to build robust structures to make them efficient and protected against third-party attacks, such as taxation within the realms of what's legal, clearly. But then also they've got capital that's going to outlive them, so really putting in robust succession plans in place. So they're common from that perspective. In terms of what their objectives are, you would say, but it's what differs greatly is how we get there.
Okay. And how do you spend a lot of time then sitting with clients and really trying to drill down into their situation?
I certainly do, yeah. Rebecca less so, certainly face to face, but you'll regularly see Rebecca and I either on the phone or in person geeking out on what's the sort of suitable type of planning that we need to do.
And both of you now are managing teams as well. So you've kind of got a third job in there. How do you, what has that taught you in terms of leadership? How is that, adding another string to your bow? And what do you enjoy and find challenging about that process?
Yes, I've really enjoyed growing a team and working with other people and allowing them to start their career in this industry. So small team that I'm running, we've got people that are fresh into the industry, starting to learn a bit more. And it's been really, exciting to work with them, understand what they want to do in their future and help them learn some of the things that I've learned. And I often get asked, where can I learn all the information that you have? Is there a textbook? And no, absolutely not. You've just got to be in this industry and learn it, because you certainly can't get to this point overnight. Andreas and I have spent quite a few years, learning all the weird and wonderful things that happen internationally, and then trying to, relay that back into the solutions for our clients.
Mm-hmm. How about you in terms of the leadership question?
So before I was kind of technical advice director, I was an advisor. So I've always had a team that I managed, whether it was an individual business development person. So I've always kind of done a bit of that, but that's obviously expanded quite a lot now. So we've kind of, the hierarchy that we've put in place within the company is we've got team directors, so they have their team of advisors, and then I kind of sit, perhaps above that, and I help with the team directors managing their advisors. So yeah, I mean, it's without, I don't mean to come across in the wrong way, but it feels quite natural and something I've kind of always done. It's with more people.
You feel
now.
like it plays to your strengths. You're
Yeah.
allowed to say that.
Yeah, they might say something wildly different to me. They might not like my style, but that's how I feel about it.
Well, when I spoke to one of your colleagues, Matt Samuels, earlier today, he had a really interesting take on this, and he said that actually being a financial advisor can be quite a selfish role, in that you're primarily, trying to build your own client base and service that, and your remuneration is based on that largely. And he said that actually that leadership piece had kind of spun that into a much more selfless role for him. So I think that's a really nice way of looking at it, actually. And I think that's kind of reflected in what you guys have said.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned the word complex a couple of times in terms of the clients that you're dealing with and the situations. How do you take that complex advice and that deep expertise and then translate that into something that's easy to digest for a client? Because, of course, most people are coming to you because they're not financial experts and they come from other industries. So how does Titan work as a business to communicate that clearly and eloquently?
So we've got lots of different resources available for clients. Typically, our clients will have seen something online, whether it's one of our articles, they might have seen a video, whatever it might be. We've got different ways that clients can access that information. And ultimately, our job is to try and break that down into simple, understandable information that clients can understand. So this is something, actually, I look back at my career. I remember the first time I ever did a client meeting, this must have been, say, 8 years ago. And it was around a pension, and we had the statement, and there was all sorts of complicated terminology. And I remember rattling it off to the client. And then after the meeting, the advisor said to me, you probably need to think carefully about how you've passed that information on to the client, because they're never going to understand what you've said. And that was always a kind of turning moment for me. I thought, actually, I was quite naive to do that. So it's been important for us to take that information, translate it into something that's much more simple for clients to understand, and then educate them. So we're not going to speak to clients on day one with super complicated information. We've just got to break it down into small, manageable chunks. And we try and position the advice that we give to clients in that manner as well. So we've got clients who've got multi-jurisdictional planning that we're doing. We're often moving assets between jurisdictions. So again, we'll break that down into smaller pieces to try and make the kind of journey easier for clients to follow.
It's striking that balance, isn't it, between demonstrating, obviously, that you understand exactly what you're talking about, but without bamboozling them and using all the jargon that the industry throws out.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to everybody in our business, right, that we build a world-class offering for the clients that we're servicing in terms of the advice and whatnot. How do you feel like your roles play into that? What part do you think you can play in that?
Well, kind of what we're doing already. So being world class, I don't think I think to the level of detail that we do our job and with the expertise we've got in house, I don't really think there's anyone that competes with us. I would say so that we've got top quality advisors here. We're quite an elitist firm, I would say, in that we typically only have or onboard advisors that they're already established. They've already been doing the job for a while. So that kind of creating that world-class kind of, experience for a client. Ultimately, if we're talking about financial advice, you need world-class advisors and you need world-class expertise. Sorry, I'm not describing myself as world-class because that would sound wrong, but, we know what we're doing and we've got a lot of experience between us on the floor, and to the level of detail that we go through things, I think that I think clients would find it quite challenging actually to find that level of service from other companies.
And I think it's got to be a key aim for us as a business to make sure that that service is upheld wherever you go, right, in whatever jurisdiction, so that when we're all passing clients around to each other, if those clients move, that they're looked after in a similar way.
Exactly, yeah. And having individuals in wherever they end up going that are capable of fulfilling the financial planning, the structuring that we put in place, rather than the opposite of that is that, they get really quite specialised advice. They go somewhere else, another advisor that isn't aware of the type of planning that we can do, or just frankly, is a little bit disjointed to us. It could undo the planning that we did and what we put in place for that client. So fortunately for us now, being the size that we are and the global presence we've got, it's not a problem.
Mm-hmm. So both of you have been part of the Titan Next Generation Leadership Programme. What has that involved?
Yes, so we have been meeting as a cohort over about the last year as Next Gen leaders. So
how many of you are there?
There are 10 of us.
And are they from all around the place?
All around the place. So there's 3 of us from Dubai, and then the rest from various offices in the UK and Channel Islands. Mm-hmm. So we have been learning some leadership skills, getting a lot more insight into what actually goes on within this group of companies, which has been really interesting. And then we've had a project to build out a high net worth proposition for the group.
Okay. And what has been the best thing about that process?
I would say it's actually meeting the other individuals. I mean, we're one of the potential risks, right, with the model that we are as Titan Group, is that we're a lot of disjointed businesses. That's the risk, isn't it? And by getting the hopefully future next leaders of those various elements of the business, getting us together, and becoming friends as well, as cheesy as that sounds, but we do. I mean, as part of our trips to London, there's lots of going out and drinking and things after we've done lots of hard work during the day. And I actually think that's quite important because you get to know people in a slightly different light. And I think that's powerful. I'd say that's the biggest thing that I think moving forward, as well as all the training, leadership training, et cetera, that we've done, those are really valuable relationships that have been established there.
Tom Grogan said the same thing, actually, when I spoke to him. And he said that, he felt that really meaningful relationships had been built, and that if anybody from that Next Gen Leadership Programme was to call him and ask him to help them with something to do with work or otherwise, that, he would drop everything and do that. He felt like it was a really powerful tool for that.
Yeah, it's made it a lot easier because I didn't really know many of the other people on the course before we started. Whereas even going about my day-to-day work now, if something comes up and Tom's name's on it, I think, oh, that's great. I can just reach out to him, in a much quicker and easier way to communicate than someone who I don't know. I'd probably have to start off with a polite email, whereas with Tom, straight in on WhatsApp,
just be rude straight off the bat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, much easier.
So you guys, whilst it is of course an incredible opportunity, the leadership programme is embryonic, and you were effectively the guinea pigs because Titan is a fairly young business, and the whole process of that didn't exist until you guys were the first batch. So what do you think that if you were setting up for the next batch of next gen leaders, what do you think you would like to potentially add to it or expand?
Yeah, one thing that I actually thought there was less of this than what I expected was the actual leadership training. But we did a 2-day course a couple of months ago with an external presenter to go through some leadership skills. And it's actually really interesting because a few of us thought we perhaps should have had a bit more of that earlier on into the course. But we found that in the interactive sessions during that course, because we all know each other and we spent a lot of time with each other, we're a lot more honest with each other, it was actually really valuable that we could be quite
candid.
Yeah, with each other.
It wouldn't have worked the same at the start, would it?
No,
everyone's a bit, don't quite know who these people are, and sort of you don't want to give too much away, and things that you say might be held against you type thing. But then we've all become quite very pally, and those kind of leadership courses and sort of agony aunt type things that we've done have been really, really good.
That's interesting. So actually you needed the team building before you did the kind of the learning part of it.
Yeah, that was either intentional or a well-fortuned mistake doing it that would, but it worked out well.
Either way, we'll take that.
Yeah, exactly.
So when we talk about leadership and progression of roles, then you're obviously both moving into fairly senior positions in the group. What does what does the next stage in that journey look like for both of you? If you were to just kind of dream up your next role, what would that look like for you? Rebecca, do you want to start?
For me, I think the future is just getting more involved in the day-to-day, what's going on with Titan Wealth International. So working really closely with the advisors, getting more involved with the financials. We've got some exciting acquisitions coming up in the international part of the business. So looking forward to visiting some of those companies that we will buy, go in, see what they've got and kind of integrate the good parts that they have into our systems and processes and help the business move forward and expand so we can be, have more solutions and more expertise for our clients.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
Well, as the sort of directors or former directors of AHR move up the scale as well, they've got their own career progressions, then I would like to run Titan Wealth International, to be honest. It's just the answer to the question.
Put your dreams out there or they never come true.
Do it, otherwise it's come true. I must admit, I am really thoroughly enjoying what I'm doing at the minute in sort of, the assistance of other individuals. And as part of the Next Gen program, we've been working on this high net worth proposition, etc. So whereas the business, we start to move up market, for a better way of putting it, in terms of the types of clientele that we can attract. If I can use my expertise, apply really the same logic and advice that we provide now, but kind of to even more high net worth or ultra high net worth individuals, the more that we grow as a business and expand organically and through acquisition, I think there'll be a lot of opportunity for that to come. So that's kind of more of truly a global role.
And when you talk about, organic growth, do you as a business get a lot of word of mouth recommendations? Are your clients happy to recommend you to other people that they know?
I mean, very much so. Yeah. I think it's probably better for me to speak to that just because I'm doing a bit more face to face. But a lot of referrals, particularly for the more complex cases, because lo and behold, those individuals that have got quite seemingly unique circumstances, they've got two other mates that have got the same unique circumstances, so it's not as unique as you thought it was, but seemingly these people seem to group together. So you get referrals through that because you've really shown them something that is hopefully very effective for what it is that they need to do. And quite often as well, I think you get referrals through, for a better way of putting it, a lot of what I do is come up with solutions or answers to questions or problems that the client didn't even know that they have. So I want to go and retire in Portugal as an example. Well, the rules have changed enormously in Portugal, and some of the things that they just planned on doing would not have led to the end result that they thought it would. Okay. And then it's a case of, goodness me, I've got two other friends that are in the same boat as me. So that happens quite organically. And our marketing, sort of online guides and things that we do, our marketing is phenomenal as well. So I'd say that is very effective. Because
for me, that's a true test. If a client is happy to recommend you to somebody that they know and care about, then that's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So as we start to service an increasingly global client base, what challenges does that throw up in terms of how we keep that experience seamless for clients, how we address changing regulations and varying regulations in different jurisdictions? What challenges does that throw up in your day-to-day role?
So for me, and with more acquisitions coming, there's going to be more advisors kind of falling under my remit that I perhaps haven't got as good relationships with or as kind of aware of their background and their expertise. So I think it's important for myself to ensure that there's other people around me that can support with more of the training, the expertise, because we need to ensure that we are carry on giving very high quality advice that's squeaky clean in terms of how it's been documented and the pros and cons of every aspect of it. So I think going forward, it's with these acquisitions and us growing further, we need to have more people on the ground here and to ensure that kind of service continues.
And do you think we will end up with more people on the ground here that have specialist knowledge rather than being kind of general advisors focusing on, UK expats here in the Middle East? Do you think there's a sort of opening, if you like, for advisors that specialise in a particular geography or a particular client type?
I think so. And with everything, we've got big plans with AI coming up in the coming months, years. maybe that will allow advisors to spend less time in the office running paperwork and be able to go and see more clients. So I think there'll be certain aspects of the job for the financial advisors that can be taken away and done by AI. So it will give so the advisors will then have, be more the technical expertise. So I think over the coming years, there will be more need for advisors to get up to that next technical level.
It's also possible that, we've got a very effective global wealth department. So that's effectively, it's a group of advisors, predominantly salary-based advisors that are very good at general account management, because it's also true to say that when you put things in place for a client, unless, I'm talking about structuring products, etc., unless that client's circumstances change, rules and regulations and legislation doesn't change, quite often it's just an account with money in it and it's investments, and we know that the way that works and the benefits to the client. But it's not obvious that that person who's got that technical expertise would need to be doing the annual reviews for that client and or just the general regular contact. So you've got a well sort of resourced global wealth department where they've got access to experts in the various fields or whatever specific niche that they've got. And that's a much more scalable business, I would say.
And then when you're working with third parties, be it on, accountants or tax specialists, how do you ensure that consistency of service for clients? How do you find the best of the best to ensure that we are continuing to give our clients the best offering?
Sometimes it's trial and error. It's a reality. We can't control the uncontrollable. So, anyone that will engage will be, on paper, the best of the best, i.e. they'll give good advice. They'll give regulated, they'll be a chartered tax advisor, for example. But sometimes they're not as nimble and proactive as what we are. We're a very proactive business, I think, say for virtually all of our staff. But over the years, there's only so many countries around the world, and often they pop up more than once. So UK repatriation, Portugal, South Africa. We've got well-established relationships with local on-the-ground experts, tax advisors for those places that we're happy with.
Mm-hmm. Tell me what your favourite thing about your job is.
For me, I'd say just coming into the office, being around such a good group of people. We would say we work with all of our friends in the office. So yeah, I enjoy coming into work. You never know what's going to get thrown across your desk that day, but it's a great group of people to be around. So yeah, it makes every day fun. It's a lot of, so we're quite lucky in that we've got a great culture here. So I'm sure every office has got a great culture, but I can certainly speak to ours. And outside of work, where most of us are mates, and we'll go and socialise outside of work. And I've got to experience now, not just being friends with them, but kind of doing business together, working on client cases, doing deals with those people. And that's been so much fun, really, really good fun. And in fact, I get more gratification from helping and providing a successful client outcome when I'm doing it with one of your mates than when you're just doing it on your own. Because I've been doing that for many years, but now to kind of do it with people that you would hang out with outside of work anyway has just been frankly really fun. So I'm enjoying that.
Well, I think what strikes me as being quite unique about this jurisdiction is that a lot of people have moved here away from their families and their homes, and actually then the people here that you work with become your quasi family, your chosen family, if you like. So I think those relationships become even more important, don't they? And actually you nodded to it on the next gen leadership when you said actually the work you get done is more productive when the relationship is already in place. So actually that's a big thing for the culture here, right? You all are really, really close as a team, and that again feeds into better outcomes for the client, better outcomes for the business. So I think it's really important that we try and protect that.
For sure. You're more likely to go above and beyond and proactively try and help someone that you like than someone that you don't like, I guess, naturally.
Absolutely.
So I think more fun and more parties across all
That's
of Titan then.
Yeah.
So when we talk about One Titan, which is a phrase that is being bandied around quite a lot at the moment as we integrate all these different business, what does that mean to you?
So for me, it's about bringing together the expertise from across the business. We're all within Titan, but we've all got different areas that we're working, whether it's the investment side, whether it's the financial advice side, pulling together all that expertise and for us to learn from each other. But ultimately, it's about getting the best outcomes for the clients. So yeah, that's it for me.
I was asked this question from another podcast, and the thing that sprung to mind, and it wasn't a very well thought out thing, but it was maybe just the feeling of it's a familiarity from a client perspective of a level of quality. For example, I travel quite a lot, business and personal, and that feeling that when I go, I always fly Emirates. It's not a plug for Emirates, but that's who I fly with, and that feeling of you're in maybe an unfamiliar place, and the airport looks a bit different, streets look a bit different, but you get to the airport and you check in and it's the Emirates brand, and you kind of know, I know what I'm getting now.
Yeah.
I know what the seat's going to look like. I know everything, these sort of little touchy-feely bits. So I'd say it's that. From a client perspective, same quality advice wherever you go, a level of professionalism that you can expect, and anything that differs from that would be unusual. So it's to be expected, and that would be the norm.
That's a lovely analogy. Thanks so much for your time, guys. It's been great chatting to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.